Good afternoon. Welcome to our library workshop series for spring 2021. My name is Mohammed Reza and my colleagues Stephanie
Hi, everybody.
will presenting this workshop. Stephanie will monitor the chat, so feel free to ask us if you have any question. Uh, Today, the workshop topics is MLA citation. MLA citation actually regulated by Modern Language Association, and they have specific rules how to document create, how to intake citation, or how to work uh, citation. So we'll cover all this area today. And again, if you have any question, please let us know so we can answer your question. Before I'm talking about all the part citation system, the basic question, why should I cite? What is the reason behind the citation? The one most important thing to avoid the plagiarism. If you copy and paste from a book, from an article, and if you are not citing properly, it considered as an offense. It's a dishonesty. So you have to cite properly, or you have to acknowledge the original work. Yes, ask your question.
Okay. Um, so I think the idea behind this is that if you don't cite it, then the reader thinks it's your work. That's where the problem comes in, right?
Yes.
That the reader depends on citations to know what is your work, what is the writer's work and original ideas, and what is someone else's ideas, right?
Perfectly. Thank you. Yes, this is the reason why should I cite. Just simply the answer, avoid the plagiarism, acknowledge the original work. Types of citation in MLA. There are two types of citation in MLA. One is in-text citation, another is work cited, which is end of the research paper. An in-text citation is the brief form of reference that you include in the body of your work. It gives enough information to uniquely identify the source in your reference list. The brief form usually consists of family name of the authors and the year of publications. So this is the in-text citation. And if anytime if you use any in-text citation in your essay paper, you have to write works cited. So a works cited page is an alphabetized list of all reference material used in the body of the essay. Yes.
So look at this when you're writing and when you're citing. I think it's helpful to think about it as a reader. So you're as a reader and you're going along, da 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 da, and then you get, it's a brief citation, not enough to distract your chain of thought from the writing, but that author and that year of publication allows you to go to the works cited and then find the original source.
Yes.
And this could be for another paper use. It could be for your own personal reading. You know, this is a witty quote, or I like this concept. Where is it so I can read more about it?
Yes.
Or read the original source. So the in-text is, the goal is to note where the information was originally from without completely throwing off the flow of the text or the reader's train of thought.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for adding that things. So modern language regulates, one is document format, in-text citation, and works cited. So first I would like to mention one thing. Even though we using the general rules, the MLA style format, but always follow your instructor or your professor guidelines, because sometimes your instructor or professor, they have provide a specific instruction for your essay, for your assignment or the thesis paper. So the first rule, always follow your instructor guideline. Unless your professor provide any specific information or the requirement, you can use MLA General Rules, which is a paper size A4, double space, 12 font, Time New Roman or similar font. After punctuation, leave only one space. Set margin 1 inch for all sides. Have a header with page number, upper right hand corner, title, italics. And I can show you actually a example of a MLA document format. You can see on the top the author last name, family name, and then page number. Left hand side, the author full name, then professor name, then quotes, then date, and you can see uh, the title center position. The title should be, and it should be indent half inch. You can see all side margin is 1 inch. So one thing you already noticed, there is no separate title page. So MLA style format, first page, there is no title page. It should be double space, your name, instructor name, the course, and the date, upper left hand corner, center the paper title, upper right corner, create header. And you can see this paper actually follows all the rules. Double space, indent, how can you write down your page number and your last name. So anytime if you need the template, you can simply click all this link and you can download the template for your the original paper. And my colleagues Stephanie, she already include all the link to the chat box, so feel free to open any of the template and you can download it. I'm just going to show you how can you download that thing. um, when you click this link, you can see Microsoft Office MLA style paper, and there is a button download. Simply click the download and you can use this, the template as your document format, unless your professor they provide any specific requirement or the information. Okay, so I'm going back to my slide again. MLA citation in text, few general rules. Ideally, no more than 25% of your paper should be direct quotation. What is direct quotation? Sometimes you copy and paste from a book, from an article, you use the quotation mark and you copy paste the whole paragraph or the few lines. This is called the direct quotation. If you use more than 25% of your direct quotation, somehow it's decrease of your the essay paper merit. So usually, ideally, no more than 25% of your paper should be direct quotation. Paraphrasing is acceptable as long as you cite it. My colleagues Stephanie, she will talk more about paraphrasing after few slides, and I'm definitely sure you will enjoy it. Yes.
One thing about the quotations and the 25% of your paper should be direct. I was talking about this with a student that I had a research session with, and it also reminded me of when I was writing in college. you know, all these facts are new to you and you want to cite them and you want to put them up and you want to fill the paper and it helps you explain. So it's hard to know to keep within that 25%. And it's also, you don't want to fill the paper up with too many quotations because your thesis gets lost. So as I went along, I learned that quotations are just backing up in brief ways of your thesis. The majority of that paper, that 75%, should be your thesis and your explanation. And the citations and the quotations and the paraphrasing are just backing up points that you make. It can be very hard to tell, but that is one way that I have found to keep within that 25%. And that will come with practice as you write more.
Thank you, Stephanie. So types of in-text quotation. One is quote, which already we mentioned, the direct quote. Another thing is paraphrase, a rewording of something written or spoken by someone else, and the summary. Sometimes you read a whole book or a chapter or few pages and give a brief statement of someone else's words or idea. That is called summary. So we can actually discuss more about the paraphrasing after a few slides. But in text citation, there is some common formats: author and the page number, title and page number, only page number. I can actually show you actual paper and I can describe more. But before go that, the in-text citation, how can you cite author and the page number? If one author, they wrote a book or article, you simply write down author, family name, which is last name, and the page number. If two author, you can simply write down both author, last name, and the page number. One thing, make sure there is no P, no comma. Simply the author last name and followed by the page number. Three or more author, you simply write down first author, last name, and you can simply write down et al. And followed by the page number. Three or more author, you don't have to write all author last name. Again, first author, last name, et al, and the page number. Citing multiple pages, for example, Roger, and you can write down the page range. For example, 29 to 32, 5 to 10. So your reader, they can understand this direct quote or paraphrasing came from this page to this page. This is a in-text citation example, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. You can see the author last name, Wordsworth, and followed by the page number 263. There is no P and no comma. Again, this is the example. How can you do in-text citation in your essay paper? One rule is author or work not stated in the sentence. So if you not state your author or work in the sentence, you have to write it, the parenthesis. For example, you can see in the parenthesis Tyson 252, because author or work not stated in the sentence. On the other hand, right hand side, you can see according to the morphine and Ray, there is definitely two author. So we use both author name, last name, morphine, the first author last name, and the second author last name is Ray, and then blah blah blah. And then at the end of the sentence 476, because author or work is stated in the sentence, so you don't have to write down again author name in the parentheses.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so there are times like when you're writing, like for the summarization of a work, where the page number wouldn't fit in because you're summarizing the entire work. So could I do something like this, and I'll come up with the example sentence of, there have been many different approaches to writing about knitting. Some will put the book in the form of an almanac, parentheses Zimmerman, because that's the Knitter's Almanac, or as a travel guide to knitting, parentheses Pearl McVie, parentheses, period. Is that okay? Do I need to include a publication year?
No. The MLA, you don't need the publications here in the in-text citation. In-text citation, two major things. One is author, family name, and the page number.
Okay.
So, and if you using the multiple pages, for example, according to Morphine and Ray, and you read the whole book, or the multiple chapter, you can just simply write down the page ranges, 476 to 522. This is one way. Another way, you can, next sentence you can state, another idea, author another idea, and you can cite the page number.
So, okay, but if I'm talking about the whole book, I don't need to include a page number.
Yes.
And so I could also do something like Elizabeth Zimmerman famously framed one of her books as an almanac throughout the year, providing knitting for projects and ideas throughout a calendar year.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Stephanie.
you.
In-text citations, some common citation system. For the poetry, the Frost is the poet, and you can, the last name of a poet, and you can simply write down the poem lines, 5 to 10. Internet resource with author, you can see only the author last name because there is page number. Sometimes you get many of the web pages, even though you get anything from UTPB website and you want to cite it, but there is no page number. So in this case, you can just simply write down author name or the work name, and there is no page number, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to include it.
I'm sorry, question about the poetry. So the poetry does the line.
Yes.
And I can make sense about that. I would go to Frost. So that means that in the reference works, there will be a Frost citing an individual poem, correct?
Yes.
Instead of a work of poetry.
Yes.
So if I was comparing various Robert Frost poems, I would need to cite them individually.
Yes.
In the reference, in the works cited list.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay.
You're right.
Thank you.
Internet resource without an author, sometimes you get some of the article or some of the information and there is no author listed. So in this case, you can write down shortened version of the title. For example, ethnic dining trends in the United States is a web page title and there is a no author name. So you can simply use the ethnic instead of the author name. You just listed shorted version of title and you are fine. Visual and audio media, you should write down the movie's name and the sequence. You are describing one specific sequence, so you can write down how many minutes it start. For example, 54 minutes it start and it finish by 56 minutes 25 seconds. You have to describe this length.
So that if someone wants to go look at that scene, they don't have to watch the whole film. They just go to 1 hour, 12 minutes,
yes.
15 seconds, 25 seconds to get that particular scene.
Yes, thank you. So in-text citation, title and the page number, I already mentioned. If you don't get any author name, then you have to use the title, shortened version of the title. You can see the global warming trends may seriously harm North American, blah, blah, blah. And you can definitely see this is a quotation mark. So you understand this is a direct quote from a web page or from an article. and there is no author listed, so you have to write down the shortened version of the title and page number. And this is the work cited, the whole work cited. You can see the title name, and the magazine or the volume or the page number. So in this case, if you don't get any author name, please use the shortened version of the title name followed by page number. In text citation, which is very important, always paraphrasing is encouraged to use, because when you actually use paraphrasing, your professor or your instructor, they understand, you actually understand other people their idea. And my colleagues Stephanie, she will discuss more about it. Stephanie, can you?
Yes, I would love to. Um, So like we say in the second paragraph here, an author is entitled to respect for their ideas, their words, and the way they present those words. I use idea, their words, and the way they present those words to help paraphrase. It could be hard to paraphrase. You get those ideas in your head and those words in your head from the person, and then it's hard to put it in your own places. Now, the ideas, that's easy to understand. Their original thesis, of course, they should get credit for. The words they choose, if there are unique phrases that they come up with or words that describe a concept that are unique and really good, they need to get credit for that. And you can do that also by putting it in quotations. And then the way can also be tricky. That's the one, when something is put to us, then we kind of bring it back in that order. And that's tricky too, because, and that could be, improper paraphrasing, because how the order that an author expresses things, the organization is unique to them. As you are writing, sometimes you struggle to come up with, how am I going to present this idea? How am I going to structure these sentences? That the structure of each sentence building up to another for the overall paragraph, it can be very tough. Sometimes you'll fight very hard to get those out. So the author deserves credit for that. So when you're paraphrasing, just taking the sentence and plopping in other words is not going to count. That's incorrect. You need to mix up how you put it in there. And then another thing to think about, and sometimes I worry about when I'm paraphrasing, is I'm really a blunt speaker. And what I get out of a paraphrased, it could be multiple sentences, and I can put it in one or two. And I'm always worried, is that enough? Should I use more words? No. If you can get their ideas down to a single sentence and you're respecting their words and their ideas and you're paraphrasing, you're fine. Some writers are more verbose than others.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually a good example. What is the paraphrase version and the original version?
I do like this one.
Yes, because paraphrasing actually, you are rewarding someone idea, but you are not changing the meaning. It should be the same. The paraphrasing, why is encouraged? Because your professor, they understand, you understand the other people, their ideas, and you can express by yourself. Mm-hmm. So this is the reason behind why always paraphrasing in increasing.
And I like we talked about words in the last slide. Father figure is very a good choice of word here. Giles was a father figure for Buffy. And so to keep that in there, that little word or two words with a dash really encompasses their relationship. So he includes it there, with the paraphrase includes it there with the quotation marks. I really like that. And you'll see how season 3 is in different places. Instead, he persists to teach and counsel, but he ignores that as continues as this. So, but you also see how they just put the meaning in different words. So like the original continues as Buffy's traitor, confident, and father figure, but persists to teach and counsel. So it's it's a different way of saying the same things, but it also brings out what the second one, the original ignores and continues versus persists and puts a different spin on that sentence. So that is a very nice one. And that is perfectly okay when you think, can you quote in the middle of a paraphrase? Absolutely.
Thank you, Stephanie. And before the next thing we can discuss, which is works cited, before we're talking about the works cited, we would like to do a guided practice, and it will help you to understand more in text citation. So I'm going to share my window again, and I believe everyone can see that one. Okay, even though I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, yes. So let's please correct all the errors in each example. Each of the following sentences have at least one error in the MLA in text citation. The first one, global warming trends may serious harm North America, and then blah blah blah, and finish by the parenthesis. So you can definitely understand it's a direct quote. And within the parenthesis, global warming, then comma, then P, then full stop, then 7. What's wrong in text citation?
No P, no comma.
Yes,
if
thank you.
If you remember anything, it's a great motto. No P, no comma.
Yes, so no P, no comma. You find. The second one, according to Castro and Hislop, direct quotation, because you can see the quotation mark. The reason is that every web browser blah blah blah, finish the quotation mark, and then Castro and Hislop, comma P24. What's wrong with this in-text citation?
First of all, our motto, no comma, no P.
Okay,
or no P, no comma.
Okay, I can erase no P, no comma. What else?
And then the second thing is, we've already mentioned Castro and Hislop in the sentence, so we don't need to include them again in the parentheses.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is the correct version.
Because your reader should know from the beginning of make that connection from the beginning of the sentence to that pages. And then I'm guessing it's important that you put it, the period after that page number.
Okay.
So it ties it into the sentence, right?
Yes. And the number 3, according to Emran et al. So if anytime you see et al, that's mean this article or the books is written by more than 3 authors. And then you can see the direct quotation. And at the end of the direct quotation, you can see Emran, Rehel, Adlop, and Rowling 6037. What's wrong with this in-text citation?
There is no P, there is no comma, so we're good on that. But you have, on one level, you have 2 different citation styles. You have the et al. In the sentence, but then you have all the authors listed there. So if you were to correct that parentheses, you would do Emran et al.
Yes.
Now, but the problem is you've already mentioned it in the sentence, so technically all you need is the page number, right?
Yes, you wonderful. That's the right answer because you already stated author or the work beginning of the sentence. So you just need only the page number.
Now, this is one thing that is different from different citation styles. At one time for APA, though they cleaned this up, the first time you mention a source in the text or in a parenthetical, you did it one way, and then the subsequent times you did it another.
Yes.
And in this one, it is consistent with the first sentence mentioning the second mentioning, which makes it a lot easier for you. Because old NPA, people are going like, okay, this is the first mention, and we need to do it like this. If it's a subsequent mention, we need to do it like this. So that's very helpful.
Okay, thank you so much. And my colleague Stephanie, she, attach all the guided practice and handout in the chat box. So feel free to access all these materials, and you can anytime you can practice, and it will give you a solid understanding how in-text citation working.
We've also attached a worksheet handout with a lot of the common formats into the chat box. So you could print that out, and as you are going through, you can refer to that if you're struggling to cite in parentheses and then with the forthcoming. So it may be helpful if you want to look at that while we're talking about that next. But it has a common works cited and in text references.
So I'm going to share my screen again. So next thing we should talk about in text block quotes, and then we can move forward for works cited. So sometimes you can use big quotation, more than 4 lines or the whole paragraph. In this case, longer than 4 lines of text, do not use the quotation mark. Never use the quotation mark. Introduce the block quote and indent the entire quotation 0.5 inch or 5 to 7 spaces. For 1 or 2 lines, 3 lines, that's fine. But if you want big sentence, more than 4 lines or the whole paragraph, you have to use that style in text citation block quotes. Okay, now we are moving for the works cited elements. If you use any times anything in text citation, you have to works cite at the end of your paper. And works cited elements, usually 9 type of elements you can get. One is author, one is title of the quoted source, title of the container of source, title of the quoted source, actually the big journal name, big books. Title of the container of source, for example, you can get a big journal and there is a multiple article. So in this case, title of container of source, this is the article name. Other contributors, for example, sometimes you get other contributors, editor or someone else, you have to include. Then version, number, publisher name, date published, location, all sorts, no matter the type, follow this pattern. If you don't have one of the 9 elements, simply omit it and move on to the next. For example, you got a book and you got the author name, title, and you can get the date published or the publisher name. That's fine. As long you get as many elements, you simply use it. If you don't get any version or the number, don't worry. So I can show you some of the example, very basic example. But again, if you need any specific works cited, for example, you want to cite a YouTube video, or you want to cite any complex reference system, always check your MLA handbook. In our library, we have multiple MLA handbook, and we can check out for you. You can I can provide some of the links, useful resource. You can use Modern Language Association, their website. You can use Purdue Online Reference System, their website. So feel free to use any of the resource anytime. If you have any trouble, simply use that book and you would be get more help. But today,
there's a lot of different elements
yes,
that I could think of, like, what if, like, let me go back to my fictional paper about Robert Frost. Then are his poems. They'll tell you how to distinguish one poem from another when you're citing in the reference list and with the text. Or what if you get an author that does it all but does it with different authors? So how do you distinguish that? There will be information on that there. Pre-pub articles, essays and books, gray literature, legal citations. They're all there. It would take us 2 hours. Poor Muhammad would be talking and we'd all be dozed if we went through every possibility. So we're just going to show you the most common ones. But the book will have those exemptions in there.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. And a book with one author, simply write down author, last name, first name, book title. Book title should be always
Italicized.
yes.
It's the big ones, right?
Yes.
Like
so
Chicago, the big titles, the larger works are italicized. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
when you see italicized, you can understand this is a book. This is the title, and then the publisher and the year, and you are fine. This is an example. Gladwell, Malcolm, Blink is the book name. Blink, the power of thinking without thinking. This is the whole book title name. And then Little, this is the publisher and the year. So a book with one author, simply follow this format and you are able to generate your work site.
And you don't have to worry about place of publication anymore.
No.
Which threw everybody off.
The MLA 8 edition is not require anymore the location. So it's more easy than before. A book with two authors, the same rules, first author, last name, first name, but the second author, their name is regular, first name, last name. Make sure when using a book with two authors, the second author is general way. For example, Stephanie Aisham. You don't have to write down the last name first, and just you can write down as the second author, Stephanie Aisham.
And I have to remember the comma
after
the first name of the first author.
Yes.
Last name, comma, first name, comma, and this.
Yes.
And then also I think it's only APA that uses the ampersand.
Yes.
Everyone else, I'm pretty sure Chicago uses the word and.
So we can do a little guided practice again, and we can forward. So I'm going to share my window again to the guided practice, and you can see there is a book named HTML and CSS, 8th edition, Elizabeth Castro, Bruce Hislop, and then publisher name, Peacepeak Press, and year 2014. And we are trying to generate a works cited, use this format. So first author, last name, first name, and the second author name, book title should be italics, and then publisher and the year. So we can see the first author name, Elizabeth Castro. So I can write down Castro, comma, Eli, Javed, and then we should put comma, and then and the second author name, Bruce Hislop, and then we can,
Period.
yes, period, and then we can write down the book name. So book name is HTML and
and
SS,
period. So
period,
you put periods between each major section,
major
right?
section. And
Yeah.
what should I do? Because this is the title.
You need to italicize it.
Wonderful. So I can make it italicized.
And we need one more space between the period and the HTML.
Yes, and then you can see the publisher name,
Peach
Press.
Pit Press.
Okay,
That's
so
easy for me to say.
so I can just
Go ahead and paste it.
yes, just simply um, and then comma, and when it published,
I go back.
2014. So I can write down 2014, and it's done.
And it's one space after each period.
Yes.
For everyone who learned two spaces after a period in typing, it's a hard adjustment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to our slide again. And we learn how can you write one author or two author. But if you get more than three author, four author, five author, six author, what should you do? Simply first author, last name, first name, et al. Et al means more.
That is so much easier. Like for a Chicago, you have to, at least in the reference list, list out all of them. APA has a certain amount, then you do ellipses and the last author. So a one author et al. Is so much easier.
So much easy. So you just think about, the one author, two author, and more than three author. You just simply write down et al. And you are fine. And rest of the rules are very similar. Title should be italics, publisher, publication text. A book with an editor, you simply write down at the end of the last name, first name, ed. That's when anyone can understand this book is edited.
And sometimes for looking at editing books, in a case like this where there's one editor listed as the author, it is probably a collection of works, different essays. So like for this one, Harold Bloom's Shakespeare's Body would be probably a significant group of different essays by different authors about this topic. But Bloom Harold got them all together, maybe worked with the writers to edit, maybe pulled pre-publishing. So since he did all that heavy lifting, he gets the credit for it. If you are citing a particular chapter in that book or a section in that book, there will be a specific way to cite it where you're going through. So unless if Harold Bloom did the editing of the whole book and there's no individual authors in it, you could do Bloom and then the page number. But if it's a group of essays, you'll end up citing, which we'll talk about in a second, you'll end up citing the individual article in there if it's an individual article. And how I know this, I've shelved a lot of books, and Harold Bloom has edited a lot of these type of titles on different topics.
Thank you, Stephanie. So, and another popular thing, an article from online, you just simply write down the author name, first name, last name. If it is more than one author, simply use the book, what we did previous example, the same thing. If you get more than two authors who wrote a article, first author, first name, last name, comma, and second author full name, and the title of the quoted source, that's been the journal name, title of the container of the source, which is article name, and then version, number, publisher name, date published, location. If you get all of them, that's fine. If you don't get, version or the number, no problem. Just, follow the next one. So, and again, Stephanie, she attached the handout. So handout, you can get different type of citation format. You can follow this format anytime if you have to create any of the work cited. And you also can use MLA handbook, any of the internet resource listed in my presentation. Simply use all this resource anytime if you need to create anything.
And this example, also being an article online, is also part of is an example of a particular article in a larger book. There's a entry on folklore in the Greenwood Encyclopedia of American Regional Cultures, the Great Plains region. So she wrote that particular entry, which is possible. There could be, and she edits it. So you see how you have her name twice. This is the author of the individual entry. That's the larger source that it's in. But this is she's also the editor of the larger source. And then there's the publisher and the date. And then you put the database in, Muhammad, for
Yes.
MLA.
Yes.
And then the URL, and then you put the date of access. And that varies depending on what citation style you're looking at. You may be like me and looking at it from a citation style you're more familiar with. You don't necessarily put the database in Chicago or APA, and the accession date has changed for those different styles. So you have a lot of things in here, and it's a great lesson of, we want to compartmentalize everything. Well, this has two authors. You may be citing something with two authors that's part of an edited book that's online. And but Muhammad gave you that basic format, and you can plug in the information that you need depending on what the source is.
Thank you, Stephanie. So there is some specific general rules about the work cited. List only those sources that actually you cited in the paper. Sometimes some students, they list some of the source they never actually used in their text in the body of the essay paper. It's one kind of plagiarism. So list only those sources that actually you cited in the paper. The second rule, alphabetize your list, A, B, C in order. It should be double space, always indent second and the third lines. You can see a work cited list. The example is a alphabetized. The second or the third line, it should be indent, half inch or 1 inch, and it should be double space.
Could we stop and take a look at this, Muhammad?
Yes.
You chose a great works cited example because you have on the first one is that is a entry in an encyclopedia. This is an essay in this book.
Yes.
The Turner book.
Yes.
There is its own book on its own.
Yes.
Here is another essay from that book.
Yes.
And then look, looks like a film. The last one is a film. It's an interview, which would be an ML in the handbook. It's by David Irving, narrated by Ozzie Davis. Oh, cool. 1992. So it shows all of those different styles in one spot, and it really shows, like, just this works cited. This writer did a very good mix of sources.
Yes.
Individual books and then whole books, and then essays in a book by that author, and then an interview with the art. And this is an artist. So you have a whole book by about that migration time, because it looks like they are, yeah, they are looking at his migration series. So you have, would be like history books and outside books with Grossman about the Great Migration. And then you also have that encyclopedia entry about the Great Migration. So you have the subject of it, the larger social forces and history that Jacob Lawrence is painting about, and it's in there too. But you also have perspectives of the artist with the Hills, Patricia, and then the interview. So this was a really great pick.
Thank you.
Jealous.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I also put some of the MLA citation useful links, EasyBeep, Modern Language Association, and I personally like the online writing lab from Purdue University. Anytime if you have any problem, I simply click and I can see, how can you cite a YouTube video? How can I cite a book? How can I cite a journal? How can I cite a website? So all these three are very useful resource who are using the MLA citation style. And one more thing, if you do practice more, you will be more expert.
I have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
How do we get these links?
You can get this link because Stephanie, she already attached the handout, MLA citation style handout, and end of the handout you can find all the links. Even though if you need all this link, please contact with us. Me and Stephanie, we are located 114 room number in the library. So anytime if you need help regarding the MLA citation system or any other citation system, please contact with us. Contact with us via phone, via chat, physically, and we are happy to work any of you. So that is my today workshop presentation. Do you have any question regarding the MLA citation system?
Okay, I'm checking chat now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to think if I don't see any questions so far. And while they're thinking, I'm going to see what else, if there's anything else that I feel I have questions about as we're going through. Of course, I just interrupt you.
No. Thank you so much. And
yeah.
I believe no one has no question right now. So thanks again. Join our workshop, and we are continuously doing different type of workshop series in our library. So please join physically or join via Teams, and we are glad to have any of our student in our workshop. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.